Hey guys, my name is Loveless and we are back with Quirk Knife. So now we're all the way to chapter 21 or episode 21. So let's get straight into it. I'm gonna throw up. Hitoshi paused at the gate and bent himself in half, his hands gripping at his knees as if it was his lifeline. The enlarged golden letters of UA mocked him, almost saying how close he was to his dreams, and with one fuck up, all his hard work would be down the drain. So dramatic, May whined, nearly tripping over caused by the large bag that was strewn over her shoulders, filled with her needed supplies. Another voice quipped in. Look, just get your lavender ass in there and don't eat shit. It'll be great. Hitoshi slowly looked over at Izuku, who was dressed normally, save for the motorcycle helmet he tossed on, the one he hasn't seen in a while. Wait, normally? Since when did Hitoshi classify normal clothing as Hello Kitty light-up sneakers and a bright pink sweatshirt with Present Mike's face plastered on the front? If anything, the motorcycle helmet was the only normal thing that Izuku was wearing. Great advice, Hitoshi sneered, standing back up and adjusting his backpack where his capture scarf was neatly folded. Oh, shit, Hitoshi said in realization. Eraserhead's gonna be observing the exams. Izuku chuckled, most likely wearing an evil grin. Not the time to go all fanboy. You can get his autograph when you actually make it into his class. That's not what I mean, and you fucking know it, Hitoshi whispered, shouted. The scarf? A little suspicious? No? No, yours is purple. The kids jumped and spun around, Dobby standing there stupidly with his hands in his pockets. Did you follow us? May said with wide eyes. And you're not even wearing something to cover your face? Moron! With a flat expression, Dobby slowly slipped a mask on what covered the lower half of his face. That was it. Lilac! Izuku hissed. Get it right, you unartistic bastard! Hitoshi could feel his face going red with all the stares their little group was receiving. He didn't need more stress. You two idiots, go away, now! Dobby and Izuku snorted at the same time. We're here to make sure you don't try to book it before you even get in there, the greenette sneered. May jumped up and down. I have to go. I have to be the first one there. Without even giving a second chance to respond, the pink-haired girl sprinted, screaming something of a good luck along the way. You look a little green there, pal, Izuku sang into Hitoshi's ears. So stop it. You'll kick ass. Just don't end up on your own ass, Dobby added, leaning an elbow on top of Izuku's helmet. Ah, fuck off. Hitoshi flipped them off over her shoulder. Don't wait up. Go choke on some rocks or something. We love you too, Izuku screamed after him. Dobby snickered. Yes, we're so proud of you. Good luck, honey. More people turned, and Hitoshi was too busy worrying about the embarrassment that he didn't even notice the uneven step he took. His toe clipped on the stone. The ground was growing closer, and wow, this was the end, wasn't it? Hitoshi didn't even try to reach his hands out to catch himself, and instead closed his eyes, waiting for the ground to probably crack his nose. Yet, it never came. He was instead nearly strangled to death, with the scruff of his shirt being pulled tight around his neck. The sound of Dobby and Izuku howling became distant as the two probably ran off before the fallen soldier could kill them. Probably a good call. Whoa, dude, you good? Hitoshi was slowly pulled back to the proper angle, and he regained his footing, slowly turning around to face his embarrassment. Thanks, he drawled, his eyes moving down slightly to see yellow shoes meet his own. No problem. You looked a little distracted with your family shouting at you back there, and I couldn't just let you fall. It would be bad luck or something, right? Sorry if I choked you too. The shirt was the only thing I could reach. I thought it was better than letting you... Thanks, Hitoshi repeated a little more forcefully, watching the blond boy jump up and down in similar fashion to Izuku. Wait, did he just say family? You're welcome, the boy responded loudly. We should go. I don't want us to... His toe caught on the exact same brick as Hitoshi's did, his arms flailing as he fell. Hitoshi sighed and snatched the boy's wrist, pulling him back up before either of them can eat stone. Thanks, the boy practically shouted. Guess we're even now. Oh shit, this is so fucking loud. Yes. Come on, Blondie shouted, turning his head to the side, and was that a lightning bolt in his hair? Good luck to both of us. Blondie was off before Hitoshi could even take another step. Good riddance. How could someone be so noisy? Not even Mei or Izuku could top that, and those two thought screaming matches were funny. With a slow sigh, Hitoshi shoved his hands into his pockets of his pants and soaked onward, this time being mindful of where he stepped. The exam hall was huge, already packed with people, and it made him feel sick, especially since he was on his own now. Hitoshi didn't like being on his own. He headed over to the section S, with his head kept down low, taking a seat with his name labeled in bold letters. To his left, Hitoshi could see another boy with, wings? No, hands. Several arms? What kind of quirk is that? Hitoshi's neck suddenly felt bare, and he itched for the scarf in his backpack, but he couldn't take it out. Instead, he removed some pencils, erasers, highlighters, his calculator, ruler, and anything else he might need. Izuku was insistent on being prepared. Hitoshi was actually grateful he had a friend to study with. Although Mei was only good at math and science, and Dabi did his best to help and was just happy to be there. The buzzer sounded and Hitoshi flipped his paper over, pausing before he began reading the thick pile of papers. He instead drew a slow breath and closed his eyes, waiting for his heart to calm just like Izuku taught him. Hitoshi's pulse slowed and became even, and his pencil suddenly clashed with his paper. He sped through it the first time, answering the questions he knew right off the bat without having to pause and think. It's safe to answer nearly the entire English section on his first flip through, but the math portion stayed blank. Okay, Hitoshi drew in another breath and checked on the time. It's only been an hour, meaning he had 2 left. Izuku told him it's not a race. He doesn't need to be the first to finish. Hitoshi flipped back to the first page and started through again. This time, Hitoshi took the time on the answers he skipped and worked through them, circling the ones he got completely stumped on. He made it to the last page once more. Alright, there's still 40 minutes remaining, and Hitoshi completed over 3/4 of the booklet. That's good. Now for round 3, he returned to the questions he didn't know and just did his best, not wanting to leave anything blank. The 30-minute buzzer sounded just as Hitoshi reached the last page of checking all his answers. He finished 30 minutes early? A good portion of the students had already handed theirs in, maybe just below a quarter, and Hitoshi didn't want to dwell on this any longer. He placed his booklet face down on the corner of his desk, tossing his shit into his backpack, and quietly stood up, bringing the paper with him. Head down that hall, follow the arrows, the woman in front instructed, and Hitoshi nodded, doing just that. You know what? At least he answered all the questions. Hitoshi was seriously going to throw up this time, and no, he wasn't being dramatic. He tugged on the lilac fabric around his neck, with his eyes were glued onto his shoes, every bone in his body trembling with anxiety. Hey! Hitoshi looked up, wondering who had the audacity to shout so loud while he was trying to not be sick. A blur of a blonde tumbled through the crowd and bumping into him, the familiar kid mumbling a sorry. Hi again. Sorry, I'm really just nervous, and I didn't want to stand by myself because I feel like I look kind of stupid, and I don't want people thinking that I'm stupid. And Blondie cut himself off, his eyes growing wide at the contraption around Hitoshi's neck. Whoa, that looks so soft. Can I feel it? No. Despite denying the question, Blondie reached out and felt the scarf between his index finger and thumb, his eyes lighting up in pure joy. It is soft. Yeah, because Zuko and May gave it a fresh scrub down yesterday. Blondie fell silent again and tilted his head to the side, his eyes cautiously examining Hitoshi's expression. You look nervous, he whispered. No shit. The shorter boy's ecstatic expression became softer, and he gently placed a hand on Hitoshi's shoulder. Don't worry, I think you're going to do great. You just have to believe in yourself. Blindy gave him one last whisper of good luck and disappeared into the wave of students, leaving Hitoshi on his own once more. The gates opened and all the students turned with confused expressions. But Hitoshi grew up in foster care. He knew the rules of if you want something, the only way to retrieve it is to be the first. Tendrils of lilac shot outward and his feet were pounding against the pavement, manipulating his scarf to catch on to any jagged edges. The students were still standing there like fools, and Hitoshi's feet elevated, the ground growing further and further away as he pushed off the wall, his scarf whipping past his ears as it stretched further up. Is that kid scaling the wall? He heard from below. Why were those idiots still standing there? What? Do you think there's a buzzer on the battlefield? President Mike shouted. There's no such. Whoa! The pro hero startled backwards as a blur flew past his side, shades of purple nearly knocking him off his feet. Hitoshi stormed by, hurling over the walls as he ascended quickly, became a freefall, the top of the closest building approaching. Hitoshi's scarf reached out, and what can he say? The rooftops are the safest place, in his opinion. And besides, Izuku told him to make himself known. Shota hated entrance exams. It just shows how children these days are raised with false expectations. They think that a strong quirk will produce a strong hero, but that is not it at all. Take a look at Izuku, for example. The boy is quirkless, yet Shota is positive he can easily murder half of the UA students without even being a suspect. Not exactly heroic, but the skills is there. We have some very interesting candidates this year, Nezu exclaimed, rubbing his paws together. Shota perked up, and although Izuku speaks very angrily towards heroes, that doesn't mean he doesn't want to become one, right? Is there a possibility that he would be here today? Did you get any quirkless applicants? Shota asked, startling his coworker since he never really speaks up. Nezu shook his head. Nothing. Why? Are you looking for someone in particular? Shota just shook his head and crossed his arms, burying the lower half of his face into his capture weapon. Hey, isn't that the kid from the sludge filling attack? Nomuri asked, pointing to a particular screen. Sure enough, there was an angry blonde pacing back and forward, small explosions popping from his palms. The other teacher spoke about how angry he looked, but Shota wasn't seeing the same thing. He was seeing an expression of someone who... He was seeing an expression similar to someone else he knows. But now's not the time. It's starting, Nomuri said, and sure enough, the gates opened, and Hazashi was standing there like an idiot he was, hands on his hips with a large smile. He does this every year, 13 mumbled with amusement. It's like he wants to annoy the children. Shota had to hold back a snort because that's exactly why Hazashi does it. He thinks he's the funniest person alive. Look at that, Nomuri hummed. Seems someone isn't hesitating for once. Shota looked up to where one screen was zeroed in on a specific applicant. his fluffy purple hair held back with a yellow headband. What's he got around his neck? Ah, Mini Shota! Nemuri screamed as the applicant skyrocketed up the wall, using his hands and feet to push himself upward, his purple weapon stretching further. Weapon? Capture weapon? Oh, for fuck's sake. There's no way. Capture weapons are only sold to licensed pro heroes, so this kid either made his own or someone gave it to him. It was impressive. The kid soared past Hazashi and freefalled towards the nearest building, the rest of the examinees finally getting the hint and chasing after him. Impressive. What's his quirk? Something to do with those tendrils? Cementos asked, flipping through some files. Nezu smirked. Actually, I received an email from young Shinso about using his support weapon that has nothing to do with his quirk. I decided not to respond. I wanted to see what he would do. I'm glad he decided to do it anyway. I thought he would be too afraid. Why didn't you just tell the kid he can bring it? Nemuri snorted, while writing something down about another examinee. Because he seemed very timid in his writing. I wanted to see if he could make a decision himself. Shota groaned secretly as Nezu continued. His quirk is just brainwashing, and only works on living beings. An unfortunate matchup, to say the least. Unfortunate? Not unfortunate. Unfair. And Shota would know. His eyes were glued to Shinso. His movements were surprisingly fluid and smooth, pulling robots using his capture weapon with so much force it sent them crashing into the ground. His movements were controlled and efficient, but it wouldn't be fast enough, not compared to all the kids with powerful quirks. Shota's eyes shifted over to Katsuki Bakugo, who blew right through another robot's with carelessness, sending metal shards right at another examinee. Yagi flinched nervously next to him, but the kid turned his skin to hard metal, causing him to get hit unharmed. Good thing he has a hardening quirk, Vlad muttered. Anyone else would have lost a limb. Bakugo is very powerful, Shota admitted quietly, but he would cause many casualties on the battlefield. With carelessness like that, even cost the lives of his own teammates. Yes, Nezu hummed. Something you could easily fix. Isn't that right, Azawa? Oh, fuck. Shota was definitely going to be given this gremlin. I'm bored, Nezu blurted and slammed his paw down on the red button. Let's cause some mayhem, shall we? Hitoshi didn't know how many points he was at, but he knew it wasn't enough. It would never be enough without a powerful quirk. It was just the way the world worked. His hands were red and raw as he pulled on the arm of another one-pointer, the robot crashing down. There was only a minute left, and Hitoshi wiped some blood off the cheekbone where a stray wire had cut him. Screams suddenly filled the streets ahead, and the ground vibrated underneath his feet. It was forceful enough to make him stumble. Out of bare instincts, Hitoshi's leg carried him towards the noise despite the other examinees sprinting the other way. He skidded to a sudden halt as a large shadow completely blocked out the sun, making the air feel cold and stale. Hitoshi was completely frozen as the robot took another step, dust flying up as other teenagers completely cleared the area, and Hitoshi knew he should follow. It was a 0-pointer after all. He turned and took one step, but stopped when his sensitive ears picked up a gentle call, strained and echoed with pain. His maverick eyes shot over his shoulder, a head of blonde lying limply with one arm outstretched. Blondie's eyes were unfocused, his legs completely pinned down by a large block of concrete. Why was no one helping? The robot took another step forward, and Blondie made another unintelligible noise, his hair no longer shiny and smooth, but knotted and dirty. Help, he called weakly. And that fearful tone was enough to make Hitoshi move without thinking. Now he understood what Izuku meant when he was recounting the day of the sludge villain incident about moving before thinking. "Blondie!" Hitoshi shouted over the noise of the creaking robot. "You need to get up!" Blondie was obviously having trouble understanding what he was saying. It must be a drawback of his quirk. "Fuck," Hitoshi said as he tried to lift the concrete with both of his hands and his scarf, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. It was never enough. "I'm sorry," Blondie said, his glazed eyes an unsettling smile, one that Hitoshi didn't like. "Oi! Weren't you the one said to believe in yourself or some shit?" Hitoshi grunted, his eyes growing wider as the robot took its next slow step. The following would be one to crush them. "You're right, so probably a switch?" Hitoshi turned to the robot's planted foot. It was a long shot, but his only shot. He stumbled over and his eyes scanned the leg. Oh, for fuck's sake. There it was. A yellow panel with a tiny red switch encased in glass. Using his scarf, Hitoshi shot up and slammed his fist down, shattering the glass, and he feverishly flipped the switch down. The robot's creaking growing quiet. The robot foot was just about to lift off the ground. It would have crushed Blondie and possibly himself. Hitoshi felt sick once again. "Eh." Blondie hummed again with one thumb up, the purple-haired teen jogging over. The buzzer sounded and Hitoshi's shoulders shrank. "I didn't get enough." "Hey!" A girl with pink skin and yellow horns waved hesitatively. "Are you guys okay?" Hitoshi shook his head so he could construct coherent words. Yeah, we're alive. But its leg is stuck under the concrete, too heavy for me to lift." She looked around as if she was hoping for a pro hero, but there was no one to help. Okay," she said slowly and approached. "I think I can melt some with my acid, but not too much. I don't want to melt that dude." Pinky placed her hands on top of the concrete and let a small amount of acid eat away at the first layer. "Yo, I've got you," another voice chipped in, some guy with weird elbows running forward. "We should be able to lift it together." Hitoshi could only nod. He knew his voice might crack if he spoke. He didn't get enough points. "Yeah, the first layer's gone, so it should be lighter too," Pinky beamed. Elbows shot hid tape-like substance around the block and stood to the left. Hitoshi joined on his side and did the same with his capture weapon. Pinky, on the other hand, with her fingers tucked around the edge of the concrete to lift. "Now," Pinky said as she lifted while the two boys pulled, the concrete hovering ever so slightly. Blondie scrambled out immediately, and Pinky let go, the block falling back down. "Yeah!" she cheered, giving Elbows a high five and helping Blondie to his feet. They must have gotten enough points, but Hitoshi didn't, because he'll never be enough. Oh, this is so sad. I just want to give Hitoshi a hug. I want to just give him a hug. He deserves all the love and care. It's like, but okay, this one's good. This one's pretty good, pretty awesome. So it's not like, was it episode 20 or was it episode 19 that was mediocre? But okay, so this one isn't as mediocre as the other ones. This was like back to normal quality. So it was average for the quality of this Arthur. So it was good. Yeah. I kind of feel bad for kind of rating it, but that's how I feel about it. But it's still fun. It's still fun to read and watch for me, because I'm like watching it in my head, and it's pretty fun to like just watch it and just kind of put yourself like you're in third point of view, and it's really cool. But I hear that not a lot of people can actually like actually whenever they're reading a book that it actually comes up as like images in their head. So I know it's pretty common that people have that ability, but it's rare for someone to not have that ability. But it's pretty cool. Okay, so enough gambling, enough talk from me. If you want to hear more, then you know what to do.